All righty, so we'll call this meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. We had some concerns about whether we're going to be able to make the quorum or not, so we decided rather than drag everybody out to Mineola, we just do this by Zoom. So we'll waive the approval of the agenda in the minutes, since it is a Zoom and it's not an official meeting. We have some bylaw revisions to go over. We're not going to do it. Obviously, we weren't going to do an official vote this month because you usually present the revisions the month before, so people have a chance to look at them, make suggestions, whatever. So we'll go right to the bylaw revision. Lisa, you want to take that?
I think we can actually skip that for today. I'll send it around. The one thing I just wanted to highlight, just so you're aware, is, and this came up in the NYC TRC meeting, you know, there was some concern that I think is valid, that, you know, we can't really remove a member just with a 2/3 vote, as much as we might like to. Instead, I think what I'll put in for the bylaw changes that we can discuss next time is just what the actions that we can take in order to effectuate a transition in the future. So sending a letter to the elected official that originally nominated that person, and encourage them to take action to get a new member for the council. Essentially, is the change that we'll make based on feedback at TRC.
All right, that sounds reasonable, but we do need to be able to have that ability. We've done it in the past, where we've had to get rid of members, you know, for basically being missing in action.
Yeah.
I remember.
Right, we asked them to resign.
Yeah.
And pursue that, and to that end, now our missing member, who we realized has not been to a meeting for 2 years solidly, has not responded to phone calls, emails, a regular post letter, and we've now sent last week another letter. We sent this by return receipt requested. So this is our, you know, additional, we check to make sure that the individual is not, it is still listed among the living, because that was a question that was, you know, presented. And
it's happened.
Yeah, the governor's office has said that they are, I'm sorry, Brian, the governor's office has said that, you know, they're looking into whatever recourse they have as well.
Okay.
The way Brian said it was to write into bylaws about like getting one of the elected official, county executive, to choose a replacement. Does that mean we can't get that person off until their replacement is found? Because we typically have a vacancy. So if we're looking for a replacement, is the replacement really replacing that person or filling a vacancy? Like, it could be splitting hairs there.
Well,
the way
it was a great question. The way it was presented to me was a person can remove themselves. The elected official can replace them. Or there are the actions that would be taken are basically the equivalent of almost like a criminal court case, or like something that's like super duper major, which is not the technical term for it. That would be taken at the state level. But yeah, they would be replacing a specific individual, the elected official, or making a recommendation to do that. So
that person wouldn't be off the committee until their replacement is found and filled.
Right.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
one of the reasons.
But there's always vacancies. So that's what I'm worried about is, okay, they put ahead, okay, here's a suggested person, but is that person replacing a vacancy or replacing this person that is MIA?
It would be specifically to replace the MIA. But it's also one of the reasons that we're trying so hard to change the authorizing legislation so that it's one name instead of 3 names, which is what we've always bumped up against, because then we, you know, have the issue of, they're like, well, that's a lot of work, that's a lot of names, that's a lot of,
yeah,
you know, so but
thanks for clarifying.
yeah.
And I think, Brian, to your point, like replacing the member would help, specifically the one who's no longer active would be very helpful in terms of being able to meet a quorum and do our official business on a meeting-to-meeting basis.
But even if he could be dropped without being replaced, if there's no replacement readily available,
That's what I'm worried about is,
that would help the
Yeah.
quorum as well.
Yeah, I mean, I take that today. So if in that case, that person would have to drop themselves. But we're seeing, so that the governor's office understands the situation. I mean, I had a long talk with them. They had us as having, I think, 2 or 3 additional members who are active. So we clarified to them that like Sheila and Mike are no longer here. So then they were like, oh, that changes everything. So they're looking into, with their council, looking into different options for how to move people off. So once I wanted to get the letter done, we're still waiting. I was kind of hoping that by today we would have his response back to us, or at least the return receipt to prove that, you know, as the proof of mail. We sent it because that was, I think, October 2nd. So it's been a full week.
All right, so if you could just get a copy of the bylaw revisions out to everybody. Oh, bless you. You know, as discussed at this meeting, and then next month we can officially vote on it. All righty, so that if there's no further discussion on that, we'll go down to my chair's report. At the September MTA board meeting, fare increases and fare policy changes were announced system-wide. Of particular interest to the Long Island Railroad customers were the following. Fare increases average approximately 4.4%. On the positive side, this fare increase is scheduled to take effect in January, approximately 6 months after it was initially anticipated. But we're still looking to probably get an additional fare increase in the middle of 2027. All tickets except monthly will expire at 4 a.m. on the day after purchase. This was a minor concession after feedback from riders at the public hearings who objected to the original and ridiculous expiration of 4 hours after purchase. I was not very thrilled with that, and I'm not really thrilled with the concession they made, but it's better than 4 hours, that's for sure. Round trip tickets will no longer be sold, being replaced with an unlimited daily trip pass. This will make ticket buying more inconvenient for weekenders heading to the Hamptons or Fire Island, who will now be required to purchase tickets twice. 10 trip tickets will no longer be sold. However, after purchasing 10 one-way tickets online, emphasis online, within 2 weeks, you'll receive an 11th trip free. This will make ticket buying much more inconvenient for the hybrid riders who have come to embrace the 10-trip ticket. On a positive note, senior and/or disabled riders will now be able to get their discount during the morning rush hour, ending one of the most illogical fare policies that I've ever seen on the Long Island Railroad. And on another positive note, the family fare age limit has been raised to 17 for children with a fare-paying adult. Both this change and the one above have been priorities of the PCAC for some time. Onboard fare penalties are being increased from $6 to $8. And the reasoning behind some of these fare policies, and actually probably most of these fare policies, is to eliminate what they refer to as opportunistic fare evasion, which occurs when riders don't activate their tickets and conductors fail to collect. Moving down. At the request of the 5 transportation workers unions, the president appointed a federal emergency panel to avoid a potential Long Island Railroad strike for now, and allow at least 120 days, possibly 240 days, which would extend to May, for additional negotiations. While the LIRRCC rarely comments on union contract negotiations with the very real threat of a strike, I wrote an op-ed in Newsday encouraging both sides to roll up their sleeves and seriously negotiate. While a considerable number of our commuters may have been able to work from home, a strike would have and still may be a tremendous hardship on our commuters, as the Long Island Railroad MTA was ill prepared to get essential workers into and out of New York City with plans to run rush hour buses to and from just 3 locations, which would have been Ronkonkoma, Hicksville, and Belmore. And even if the buses could have accommodated everybody, the parking situation would have been horrendous. Regarding the LIRR's monthly metrics, on-time performance continues to remain in the mid-90s range, and ridership itself has just inched over the 90% mark compared to pre-COVID numbers. The Long Island Railroad just recently had its first post-COVID 300,000 ridership day, which was helped by the additional service provided for the Ryder Cup golf tournament. And on September 18th, Mark Herbst invited me out to the LICA's headquarters in Melville to participate in a panel arranged by Senator Cooney. The goal was to understand the island's transportation needs ahead of the state budget. State Senator Monica Martinez, leadership from NICE Bus, Suffolk County Transit, road builders, and labor representatives were also in attendance. It should be noted that Senator Cooney is the chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee. And Jack Connors also came out with me for that meeting. And that's basically the report for this month. Anybody have any questions?
I see Stu has a hand up. Go for it, Stu.
Hi. Well, first a comment that the on-time performance we will note is not the rider experience. That again is the on-time performance of the trains. So of course it doesn't include what happens when you miss your connection at Jamaica. But the question I'd like to pose is my understanding fair that the reason for the 4 a.m. expiration of the tickets is because the well-compensated staff or train crews are not doing their job?
I don't know that is what anybody has said. No, I think that is so that it's the same reason that we've heard from a lot of people is so that shift workers, people who or people whose plans have changed and need more than a 4-hour window can.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not asking the question correctly. The tickets expire 4 o'clock the next morning. The reason is because many passengers don't purchase their ticket or don't activate their ticket until they see that the conductor has come around to collect it, or the ticket collector. Much of the time, the ticket collector or the train conductor doesn't come around. So they're not doing their job, and that's the reason that these fares are not getting collected. That was probably a statement, but I'll look for a response.
Oh, I can't argue that with you because I've been on several trains. I think most of us have been on several trains where for whatever reason, the conductors have not collected the fares. Maybe it was too crowded to get through. At this point, I don't think the MTA or the Long Island Railroad wants to antagonize the unions by calling them out on that. So the bottom line is the tickets were being purchased were not being collected and then being subsequently reused on a second or third trip. And they wanted to eliminate that. I thought it was a little heavy-handed myself, but the reasoning is they are under a lot of pressure from the electeds, state senators, state assemblymen, about fare evasion. They are all up into it. How, we lose $1 billion in fare evasion. How can you ask, to raise transit fares, et cetera, et cetera? And this is the MTA's response to it.
So I'm going to just comment on that while I certainly do not support fare evasion, I've been on quite a number of trains where the crews do not walk through and do not collect tickets, or they do so just once. And I know I recognize some of the regular riders who come on, they sit down, the crews never come around to collect their fares. From my perspective, this is mismanagement by the Long Island Railroad, which should know what its crews are doing and which should insist that they do the fundamentals of their job. Instead, we have an obnoxious rule. So now I don't purchase my ticket. I will not now purchase my ticket until I get to the train. Because if I'm late for the train, if I get a flat, if the train breaks down and it can't go, then I'm stuck with a ticket that I can't use. I don't think that's particularly fair. The railroad also says that if you purchase your ticket on the train, there'll be a $2 penalty. It's not clear to me right now how they're going to know if I'm on the platform or on the train at that point. But this is a system. Well, I'll just conclude that I'm on these calls a little bit because of self-interest, but also because I want to see people being attracted from their cars onto the train. And you've got a Long Island Railroad management that is doing the opposite. I am even considering, and I take the train when I could take a car, I'm considering how I can avoid the Long Island Railroad because of obnoxious rules like this. So that would be my statement. Thanks, Jerry.
Stu, I want to just clarify something that you said. So it's not $2. If for people who habitually don't purchase their ticket until they're on board and the train is going, it's $2 in it over and above the current $6. So it would be an $8 onboard fare fee. So it's not $6, it would be $8.
So that's even worse, of course. How will they know if I've purchased my ticket on the platform or if I waited till I walked on the train?
It's geofenced.
Excuse me?
It's geofenced. Yep.
But I don't know what that is. Does it actually knows the difference between if I'm on the train or on the platform right next to the train?
No, but if it will know like within the time frame before the conductor gets to you.
So if I purchase the ticket on the train before
But I can also tell you that we don't have anybody from the railroad on right now.
Mhm.
So we're not able to answer those questions specifically.
Okay, I don't mean to make you, but I'm just suggesting why this obnoxious rule is even more offensive. You know,
Understood. We have Adam also has his hand
okay,
raised too.
thank you.
Stu, a lot of what you said was also raised at the hearings and by people who spoke, which is why some of the proposals were changed.
In terms of the fare changes, has the PACAC, and I know that Mr. Peranzo wrote an article about this, about at least getting us 36 hours. Like we can't buy the ticket the night before, and buying the ticket the morning of for the morning commute is a problem. I personally don't use the Train Time app for a variety of reasons. From the bad information on the app, the false advertising, the fact that no one ever responds to real-time chat, so on and so forth. So in the rare cases that I do have to subject myself to what the LIRR has become, I do use paper tickets, and buying them in the morning is going to be a problem. In addition, my alternative to this mess, Nice Bus, is still on MetroCard. I mentioned at a prior meeting that there aren't any accommodations being made. It's very hard to refill a MetroCard, and for those of us who continue our commutes in Nassau, this is a real problem already, even before the full discontinuation.
I know that Jerry and Jack, you were just at the conversation. I know that NICE is transitioning to tabless, to tap and go, right? So that timing is coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean,
But if anything could be done to advocate for the timeline and now the discontinuation of coins too, I mean, we should at least have our coins and MetroCards for 2026 until this transition is done. There's such a rush to discontinue MetroCard, and we're being left in a lurch for several months during this transition.
I mean, I think that our understanding is that MetroCard will be phased out in favor of a contactless system on Nice Bus by the end of the year. Obviously, I mean, there's been several delays prior to this, which is,
Last update is April
yeah. So,
to start it. So
it's
we need
something-
MetroCard until April.
a chance to answer.
Yeah, sure.
It's something that we are concerned about, that we're looking into and following. And I can tell you it's an issue too. I mean, when I was a Queens Bus redesign ambassador, it was an issue. We had people coming in from Nassau County. I would also add that we're looking into if there might be legislation that might aid not only Nice Bus, but transit authorities around the state in taking a more unified approach to different fare payment systems to help reduce frictions, not just between Nice Bus and the subway, but also between Nice Bus, Suffolk County, really just around the state. So we definitely I think we've been for years now very focused on fare policy. So it's definitely something we're
I guess
aware
my concern is the short term, even from now until December, it's very hard to refill a MetroCard with the machines being removed. We should have at least access to the end of the year like we were supposed to, and that doesn't seem to be happening right now.
There are several stations that still have them, and definitely at the key stations. And there are some MetroCard vans, I guess, still around. You can also buy them pre-filled at some retail establishments. It's not
It's
ideal.
just
Listen, we agree. I'm sure you read our report. We agree that there are a lot of challenges. But it's, we advocate for what we think is right. Doesn't mean that it always happens.
Understood.
And I've made it very clear, if not publicly, privately, these are unnecessary inconveniences, but that fell on deaf ears. Again, they kind of like turned it around on me like, oh, so you're advocating for fare evasion. I said, no, I'm not advocating. So it's a very, very touchy subject. Like I said, they were under a lot of pressure from the electeds to get fare evasion down. It's a problem on the railroad, but certainly not the problem that is on buses or subways. But they have to deal with it, and I guess this is their way of showing the electeds that, hey, look, we're trying to deal with the situation.
I know we're not going to get back to 60 days or 6 months. My question was just, is the PCAC going to do anything to advocate, excuse me, for an incremental change to at least get us to be able to buy tickets the night before? Because I haven't heard anything on that issue besides Mr. Peranzo's article.
We can ask. We have expert, and basically it's thanks, but no thanks.
We've
Trust-
all
Thanks.
testified.
Get my head against the wall.
We all testified from every council, every staff member testified. We've made our position known to the MTA leadership and to elected officials. And there were some incremental changes, but again, we are the advocates, not the rulemakers. So we can do what we can do. What when Jerry is a voting member on the board, that would be a different situation. But right now, Jerry has a very strong voice, no vote. So that's a problem that we're also trying very hard to change.
Absolutely. And I know I brought this up to Jerry in a prior meeting. Has there been any progress on the issue of connections, at least over the weekend or in the middle of the night when trains are light, and they're still missing connections at Jamaica, even when there's no trains around or no need for track space or anything?
We haven't gotten any feedback on that from the railroad. They just tell us that, that they're pushing, that they're monitoring when trains arrive in Jamaica, and that they're trying to hold them to a 3-minute standard rather than a 6-minute standard so that they don't miss their connections. And that's about as far as we've gotten with them, to be perfectly honest.
All right, thank you. Understood. Thank you for the information.
All righty. Anybody else, Lisa, or I can't see the...
Nope, we're all clear.
All righty. Is Anna on yet, or?
Anna is unable to join us. She had a personal issue that came up and kept her away, but she did send her an update. The update that she shared with us, the first part is about the fare changes, and you've gone over them, and everything that you said is on her
Yep.
report. She did give an update on the ADA projects. She said Auburndale's elevator is scheduled to reopen by the end of the month. Exact date TBD. Valley Stream, we're in the final phase of our elevator work. For example, fire alarm, operational tests, and civil work. We're hoping to reopen the main staircase and the elevator by the end of the month. Additionally, we're hoping to open the escalator in mid-December. Forest Hills. On October 27, we'll be closing the ramp on the eastbound side of the Forest Hills LIRR station along Burns Street. We anticipate the ramp being closed until May 1, 2026. When it opens, it'll be fully compliant with all of today's ADA requirements and will feature automated snow melting.
Ooh,
And I'm adding something I wish we all had. Laurelton completion is scheduled for early December, exact date TBD. And Hollis, St. Albans, Locust Manor are currently on track. She had no East River updates.
Alrighty. I just want to add one thing that I probably should have had on my chair's report. Yesterday, I was invited out to a field meeting to review the new help point installations. We visited 3 stations. Chris Greif and his mom were there. And I'm sure Debbie will probably chime in after I finish. And it was good in the fact that it was nice to see the railroad reach out to us because we're the end users, we're the customers, and we look at things in a different lens than the railroad officials do in a lot of cases. In fact, even though I represent the Long Island Railroad riders, Debbie and Chris look at accessibility in a different lens than I do. Things that I might not think are that critical, they might, disagree with. In fact, we actually found a situation when we were at the first station at Deer Park, the handicap ramp or accessibility ramp had a bunch of cracks and crevices and stuff like that. And, I'm looking at that like, yeah, they should get around to fixing that sometime. And then I watched Debbie trying to negotiate her walker over some of these cracks and crevices. And it was like, no, they should get on this right away. And Anna assured me that she was going to send a email to the powers to be to get somebody out there and do the repairs. And we had a lot of comments regarding these new installations. They've actually already upgraded the original help point stations. They haven't even installed them all yet, and they were already phasing out some of the older help points. The first station we were at had the old help points, and all you could do with those, it was either an emergency or information. The newer help points actually are more noticeable because they have a big light on the top where you can kind of spot them. And then there's also, if you need assistance getting on the train, you could push a button if the train's coming in, and I guess it will alert the incoming train that someone needs assistance and to put the plate out. So we did go around. We had quite a few. Everybody in the group had quite a few comments. We found one that was inoperable, so I told them, you really need to put a sign on that, because if it's an emergency and someone's pushing the emergency button and there's nobody coming, and they assured me that not only will they put a sign on it, they will get it removed as quick as possible since it's scheduled to be replaced. We noticed a few things. When you're in the field, you'll notice things that they don't notice when they're sitting in an office drawing these things on a piece of paper. The if you were in the middle of the platform, you couldn't see a couple of these things because there was signage that were blocking the little nice lights that they had on top of it. So it was like, well, it's nice, but you can't see it from here, so you don't know it's there. So, they went through the reasoning for why they positioned some of these where they did. In most cases, they would be positioned by the elevators. If the station didn't have an elevator, they'd be positioned by the top of the handicap ramps, which makes sense because someone comes to the top of the ramp. That's when they're going to want to be able to notify somebody that they're there and they'll need assistance getting on or off the train. So we went through a couple things. We also found some other items, maybe not specifically for this, but like signage. What's the proper term? Wayfaring or
Wayfinding.
Wayfinding. I keep thinking of that stupid commercial. I'm sorry. Wayfind. When we were at the Farmingdale station, it was like they don't have a handicap ramp on the side of the station. It's crazy. It was way down. It was on the westernmost portion of the platform. So if you're in the middle of the platform, or worse, if you're on the eastern end of the platform, you have no idea where this ramp is, if there even is a ramp. So I think we suggested that they should put some signage up for that. Definitely put some signage up for that. We also noted, while it was unrelated to what we were there for, like in Farmingdale, there's no ticket machines on the westbound side of the station. And there's no elevator to go up and over to where the ticket machines are. So you would have to go all the way to the end of the station, cross the road, come all the way back to buy a ticket if you go, if you're westbound. So they took a lot of notes. They probably won't invite me back. But it was good to get out in the field and actually see some of these field conditions. And again, it was nice that they at least reached out to us for some input. And they promised that they would follow up with me on some of the suggestions that we made. Debbie, if you're there, if you want to chime in on anything.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm using my phone. First of all, you got it completely correct. And Jerry, thank you for everything you said, because truthfully, was unbelievable, because after Chris and I got off the train and it's raining and he says, Mom, stop. I go, okay. He was saying, you're gonna have to figure out how to get around these big cracks. They weren't little, they were big. Now, thankfully, I have a walker with the very large wheels. But still, if my front or back wheel get in the wrong way, I could actually, trying to get out of it, I could fall. Now, if someone's using a wheelchair manually or motorized, they have that problem too. Persons who have visual disabilities, even if they have a guide dog, the guide dog is not going to figure out where to go. They don't even have the correct yellow bubble strips on the side. And that's where, like, a guide dog or even a person who has sight would be able to know, yeah, I'm too close to the track edge. When we were going down the ramp, I was like, with that crack was so bad that if Chris wasn't there with me, I really would have been thrown off the ramp completely. And if there was a lot, it kept, all those cracks had water in there. Now, my other concern for that is mosquitoes. It's a great breeding ground for mosquitoes if the water's not drained correctly. Also, there's another, Jerry, you're absolutely right about the signages. There were no signages, not enough proper. You don't have the correct arrows that would say which way to go for the ramps or an elevator or the help button. But there's a bigger problem, and this happened to me. I was at one of the stations that has a help point. We pushed the button way in time. The no one came out to assist or help me. So I got on an inaccessible car, which meant I was standing. And the conductor comes to me, and I said, "Didn't you see me? I pushed the button." What, I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't know anything about those lights. I said, "You telling me you cannot see me? I have red hair." So I asked everybody in the car, "Can you see me?" Yeah, and these people wearing sunglasses. Well, to make a long story short, I reported this with Christopher because they really need to understand why these lights are there for. What do these buttons mean? Because I cannot get Long Island Cares to assist me if I'm getting off at Deer Park. I get it at Jamaica. Really appreciate it. Atlantic Avenue, Penn Station, and Grand Central. Without these people, if those situations were there, it would have been very rough or dangerous for me. And not just only me, I also people who use the crutches or canes. These cracks are very dangerous because if you get caught, especially most people have tiny little wheels on their walkers, the walker would be jammed and actually they could break the wheel. So we need to improve where they put these lights. The drivers and conductors must know what they're for. They should know which stations have it. Also, if there's a way that a button, excuse me, can be connected, because example, when I'm in Connecticut and the Metro North Cares calls ahead when they can to the train driver and the crew. We have persons with mobility devices need to get on. One time they didn't pay attention. The crew was written up, and it was to their detriment was someone from the Department of Transportation from Connecticut who was writing everything down and asked me, "Is this regularly happen?" And I said, "Not really, but they have not all the conductors have the patience or the deal with us." I'm not asking, myself and people with disability, we're not asking for the sun, moon, and stars. We want to be able to travel independently on Long Island Railroad. So, and we're Metro, but we want to be able to get there on and off safely. I love ramps over sometimes elevators because I've been shoved and pushed. People say, "I got to go on." And the sign says, persons with disabilities can board first. The other scary part is when it doesn't work, or you have sometimes get homeless who use it for the bathroom because the bathrooms at the station are locked. So these are a lot of issues persons like me go through. So just bringing all, and Jerry, you were 1,000,000% correct. Everything you said, everything. So I want to thank you for that. And I appreciate your concern because you wanted to make sure Chris and I would be okay, and we appreciated that. So thank you.
Oh, well, but I was glad that you were able to come because, like I said, we look at it from a different lens. Because you live it. So, maybe some of the things that I wouldn't have thought were that big a deal. Well, yeah, I don't have to wheel over the top of some of those cracks and stuff like that. So it drove home that, we need to be more attentive to certain things. One question I should have asked, the newer help points that have the little yellow light on the top of them, I was wondering if someone pushed the button for assistance with those lights, like blink on and off or something to let somebody know that somebody pushed the button, or exactly how that would work. But there will be a follow up, and that's definitely a question I'll ask. Now, the height of the buttons. Did you have any problem with those? The first ones, the help points that they're discontinuing, those buttons looked like they were a little high. Again, they were okay for me, but I'm not sitting in a wheelchair or in a walker. Did they work for you, Deb? You're on mute, Deb. That's why we're not hearing you.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, you're right. When I using a wheelchair, and I could not reach those buttons independently. It was very frustrating. If I didn't have Christopher, I'd really have a problem. But remember, we had this gentleman's name is Chris too. He's with the press, with the Able, I think, newspaper. He's in the motorized chair. He uses a sipper puff to move it around.
Yeah.
He couldn't reach it, or even his the aide that was his nurse. She told me it wasn't high enough either. I mean, it was too high. Like we've also said to them that they should have two buttons because some people are very tall, but some people are not. And we also said they need to have braille on there so that people can figure out where to push the buttons. But they really, those buttons, I'm sorry to say they don't, oh, if the staff also doesn't pay attention, the train, they don't pay attention to us. They even ignore us with these buttons. And it's
The one-
frustrating. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, the one that I saw in particular was the one that they're taking out of service. I didn't get a chance to really check the height of the new help points. I know you travel the system quite often. If
Yeah.
next time you see one of the new help points, if you can just check and
Sure.
see how that works, because it would be an embarrassment if they put these things in all over the system, and then we find out that people who are in wheelchairs or whatever have a very difficult time getting to the buttons, that the buttons are set too high.
Now, Jerry, I just wanted to also bring this point up. I was supposed to bring my cousin Amanino. Anne is considered short stature, and she's not a dwarf or midget. Just everyone in that side of the family is very short. She would have a problem with the button if it wasn't where and she couldn't see all those buttons because the lighting over there is not that great either. And that's the thing that most everybody's not paying also attention to. We need better lighting near them. We need signages that point arrows, which way to go to get them. Also, which way are the accessible signs to go back and forth. In fact, the actor committee, Christopher, it chairs the subcommittee for the signages. And we too look constantly at signages. And like there are times I'll tell them that, on this, I'm giving an example, it's the subway. When I get off certain elevators, and I'm waiting in the accessible part, and that's also for the Long Island Railroad, where they so-called raise the platform so I can, if possible, go in without the bridge plate. It's too, I can't see the signs because everything else is blocking, and I can't even tell when the trains are coming or going. So we need to work on that also. It's a big problem too. You never know. Like, these signs it's in the way. I can't figure out where is and I'm looking, where's the time? And also when they announce the train's coming, it's better than it was in the past, but they need to just slow down another fraction, 1 or 2 seconds. But otherwise, I have to say they are going in the right direction because they're asking us. And yes,
Yes.
yeah, they're asking. We used to be ignored. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, excuse me? That's why the lady Edith Prentice was very angry because she said, I'm a paying customer. And I have the right to be able to get on and off the platform, into the train safely. And when I want to leave the station, I should have the ability to leave without getting hurt. And she was 100% right. And that's the other thing. And also, we need to see if we can connect with DOTs, for Suffolk County buses as well as NICE buses, to make sure their bus stops are closest to where the ramps or the elevators are, so persons with disabilities can get on and off easier. And and it's also an extra set of eyes to protect us because we are preyed on by people who want to rob us. And they also look to steal those motorized wheelchairs. Seriously. But again, thank you, Jerry. I was so happy you were there. And yes, I want you to come more often because I appreciated all your insights.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. If nobody has any questions regarding our Help Point visit, we can go down to the executive directors and staff report.
Great, thank you. I think a lot has been said. This morning I was at a press conference with the governor, with Jano, and the police commissioner, who expressed concern about the security grant funding that has been pulled from the MTA. They were accompanied by the MTA police chief and also the transit bureau chief. It's about $34 million that is specific to transportation security grants that is for the Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and subways and buses and Staten Island Rail. So you may be hearing about that. Alfonso did come in And the governor pointed out that Mr. Gabarino was very helpful on getting back the $187 million that had been withheld on the other, because he's on the Homeland Security Committee, getting that funding back that had been withheld previously from, it's a different pot of safety money. So she was beseeching him to assist in getting this money back as well. So hopefully that will be returned. We had an article and an op-ed actually in Crane's online this week, and it should be in the print edition next week, on what the purchase of the M9As, which are coming, will mean to not just riders, but to the regional economy and to the economy of the state. So we're looking forward to that. That's a very large investment, something that Long Island Railroad riders have certainly been waiting for a very, very long time. I do want to point out that Jack is being recognized with an honor. Kara, do you want to mention that?
Yes, Jack has is being awarded the Joseph Boardman Award by the New York Public Transit Association at their annual conference later this month. So we are very proud of Jack. It's given to an up-and-coming, emerging, and future leader in the public transit field in New York. Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
I could tell you from personal experience, Jack knows how to work a room because we went to a couple of events together, and I'm kind of lost, but he knew more elected officials than I did. That's for damn sure. And no, it was great that he was with me on those two occasions.
Yeah, no, Jack is definitely he's not an emerging leader. He has emerged. So he's definitely the Energizer Bunny. Sometimes we want to find out where those batteries are and pull them out, but he's made us all elevated our office and continues to do so.
Thank you all, and thank you, Jerry. I've enjoyed our recent outings together. It's fun.
I appreciated it. Thank you.
Yeah. As was noted, we did testify. Thank you for testifying, Brian, for attending the fair hearings, Jerry, and for getting our points across at those hearings. And for better or for worse, we had our say at to the MTA in a number of different ways, and we'll continue to do so. I think we moved the needle a little bit. We definitely moved it a lot on the senior AM peak, senior disabled Medicare eligible AM peak, and for on the what I like to call the mid kid, raising the family fare age to 17 and allowing people to ride on that family fare, all adult full fare paying, not just a monthly rider, but also having anybody being able to take their child up to the age of 17. So that makes it less expensive to ride the train than to drive in many cases. I'm missing anything, guys, from last month? Because we did just meet a month ago. Okay, great. Do you want to give the social media update? Unless anybody has any questions for me.
Okay, then I will give the social media and communications update this month. First, one slightly newer phenomenon that I noticed is that multiple writers this past month have shared images and complaints about the foggy windows on trains. We all know that that's an issue, but a lot of writers think that it's because of a lack of cleaning. And so the Long Island Railroad account will respond and explain that the issue is because of the UV light exposure that we know about. But it raises an issue that maybe there should be more communication or some kind of sticker maybe telling people like, hey, we've cleaned these cars. It's a UV issue. People just don't seem to completely understand why and think that the cars are just not being cleaned. Secondly, there are concerns about previously 10-car trains being shortened to 8 cars or occasionally 6 cars on certain trains, causing overcrowding. And every month there's issues about overcrowding in general on peak trains. Third, there were ongoing questions and concerns about reimbursements and other travel options if the strike had happened, which the railroad was very communicative about. And they had some good contingency planning information, but luckily that did not end up happening. And then lastly, riders generally did not respond well to the posts about the fare change process, both about the increase in fare, and many people did indicate that the pop-up outreach locations on Long Island were not scheduled at times that they could go to, or that they were far away from them, which is in line with what we have said in the past. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to say, the governor was asked this morning, Governor Geno, about where things stood with the negotiations with the unions. And even though it was considered an off-topic question and they were only taking on-topic questions, they did say we're in the middle of a negotiation and we don't comment on ongoing negotiations. So, you know, to be continued, right? So we, you know, but we'll see how things lie there. But yeah, there've been some very interesting looks to see at some of the work rules out there. I will say, if anybody comes into Grand Central, there's a great exhibit that's up until October 19th, I think. That is a photography exhibit by the Humans of New York artist, who has a great just montage. He's taken over all of the advertising space, at least on the upper levels, and in the subway, that looks at the photographs he's taken over the many years of New Yorkers in our very many different forms. So worth it if you're here.
Speaking of Grand Central, Grand Central Madison in the basement, we do finally have a place that you can get an adult beverage. Trax is finally opened. It's the first retail, or well, it's the first store, retail, whatever you want to call it, that has opened on the Grand Central Madison level. So that's a big plus, at least for me. I didn't get invited to even though I kept hinting numerous times, I did not get invited to the grand opening, but so be it. That's because I rattle a few cages in the boardroom. So I'm not getting any Christmas cards this year, I guess. But so be it. And that's all I have. You have anything else, Lisa? Or
no, we've got old business and older business and a newer business on that are left on the agenda. I don't know if
does anybody have any old business?
I see no hands. Or
Anybody have new business?
okay, super. If you hadn't seen, the Ryder Cup helped to, as Jerry mentioned, bring it ridership very much into the numbers that the MTA is thrilled with. So more events.
Yeah, we're up to 90% now. Well, I think they actually said 91%, but the Ryder Cup was probably worth a percent point. But the fact that we hit the 90, that's a big number, you know, from pre-COVID.
So
big
World Series would have made it even better, but you know.
Yeah, well, neither of our guys did what they were supposed to do this year. So, like they used to say in Brooklyn, wait till next year.
Yeah, this year we're saying it in Queens and the Bronx.
Yep.
I see Adam has a hand up.
All right, Adam, take us
Yes,
home.
someone was able to obtain 2024 data from LIRR, and on my branch and a lot of the branches, although we may be at 90% pre-COVID on the commuter rail, it's because of fares and things. We're well over 100% pre-COVID within the boroughs, which is excellent, but it's masking the fact that basically 1 out of 3 people on Long Island still have not returned to the train. Because of the conditions and the elongated travel times, more running time was added in the morning rush during the September change. So the railroad is just really doing everything it can to not be an option. We're getting left since this is LIRCC, we're really getting left out in Nassau and Suffolk the last few months, and quite frankly, the last few years.
Okay,
And
well, I
Mhm.
can see how you can feel that way, but again, we're just advocates. We take the information we get from our riders, and we talk to the MTA, we talk to the railroad, and what changes we can affect, we can. And there are a lot of times, the answer is just no. But please
And I
know
guess
we are fighting for you.
understood. And the other thing is, it would be nice if, quite frankly, they would tell us. The MTA is particularly inaccessible compared to Metro North. Metro North, I know, just had a nice project, and they brought down the running times, and they've had a lot of interaction with their customers the past year or two. And you're lucky if you get a thanks for telling us, we'll look into it, when you use this customer portal, as you know. So I know a lot of the advocacy is done, whatever, behind the scenes. It's just tough not to hear more being said out loud on our behalf with how bad things are.
So noted.
Thank
you. Alrighty. Anything else? Going once, going twice? Okay, so we'll adjourn the meeting at 5:29 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.